My name is Peter Winstanley. I'm a retired citizen soldier, having retired in 1994 with the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. Since that time I've developed an interest in the welfare of the prisoners of war of the Japanese. Today I have the privilege of interviewing Ray McMillan, who was a member of the Royal Australian Air Force. He was aircrew flying out of Sumatra. In fact, prior to that he'd flown out of Kota Bharu in northern Malaya, then Singapore, and then later in Sumatra. He was ultimately captured in Java. He then spent time on the Burma end of the Burma-Thailand Railway, going up there in late 1942, and still later he was sent to slave in the coal mines in Japan at a camp called Omuta Camp 17. We'll now cross over and hear of Ray's experiences. Thank you very much for agreeing to do this interview today. Maybe you could start by telling us when your date of birth, a little bit about your parents and your schooling, and when you enlisted into the RAAF.
I was born in Wee War, northern New South Wales, northwestern New South Wales, on the 7th of February 1916. I was number 6 in the family of 8 children. My parents had 2 properties, the one on the outskirts of town where we normally live, a house and one which is for let, and then a grazing property or farming property 10 miles out of town and then towards the Pilliga Scrub. I went to school at the local public school. There was no high school in Wee War, and although I was desirous of going further on to further my education, this was the middle of the Depression, 1932, and my parents could not afford to send me to Tamworth or Dubbo, where the full leaving certificates could be obtained. From there I did all kinds of work, mainly helping my father out the property. Certainly I used to work with him and another brother during the school holidays, etc., etc. And then I used to take any job that was offered around the town, sitting on a milk cart, or doing a little fencing for someone, or sundry other little jobs. But my main source of income, if you call it that, was as a relief telegraph messenger and later a relief postal assistant in the local post office. Here I learnt the Morse code, and I thought I was pretty good at it, but I served as a local postmaster at a couple of small places out the other side of Wee War, places named Very Widemount and Cryos. There's nothing there now, I don't believe. Now, I was very keen to sort of have a career of some kind, not knowing particularly what it was, but having become proficient in Morse code, I thought, wouldn't it be great to get a job on a ocean liner, travel the world, you know, as a Morse code operator. But eventually, the day that Neville Chamberlain came back from Munich in 1938, I had travelled down to Newcastle to be examined by the Air Force recruiting team to go into the Air Force as a radio operator. And I saw that as a possibility of getting experience on Morse code and in life generally away from wee war. That was in September 1938. First of all, my medical, they refused me because they said one hip was lower than the other. But eventually I got to down to Melbourne to begin a radio course on the 1st of May 1939. Here it was an 8-month course out at Lebanon, just outside of Melbourne, and from there I graduated in a class of about 35, and by this time war was right on the horizon. Or if it wasn't, I can't recall whether it was actually, I think it may have even started over in Europe, or wherever now. And I did various training and flights around Victoria, and then in June 1940 it was decided that I'd send one squadron over to Malaya, and I was part of that contingent. We arrived at Segment1 in Singapore on the 30th of June 1940. From there I did various training runs in various aircraft. The Lockheed Hudsons we were flying at the time. Back at Lebanon there were only Avro Ansons, but the Lockheeds came in and we thought it was wonderful, you know. Instead of landing on 3 points, it was rolled in on the two wheels. Great aircraft. So we did a lot of training there, navigation training and radio operating exercises right out over the oceans and what have you. And then the threat of war became more, in the Pacific became more imminent, and eventually we heard that the Japanese fleet were on their way to Kota, where I had been stationed for some few months. And
so can I just ask a question? At Kota, did you know Don Dowie?
Yes, doing very well.
Yeah, and of course Jock Bingham.
Yeah.
And was
I do, Doc. I did know Jock, but I do Dowie very well.
Yes, and was
you see, I was there to Jock wasn't.
No, he was
so
ground
I do
crew.
all the aircrew
Yes.
fellows particularly well.
These class distinctions, I don't know, Ray.
No, anyway,
Wing Commander Davis, was he up there?
Curly Davis was our CO.
Okay, can you tell us about around the time of the Japanese invasion, what were you actually doing?
Well, we did a lot of flying exercises, navigation exercises, and watching out for any Japanese fleet which may come down our way, which eventually did on the 8th of December 1941. I had been out with Ozzy Diamond in Lockheed. We had sighted the fleet, and several others made sightings of it, and we reported it back, and messages went down to the Air Force at Singapore. So we knew that the Japs were headed towards the Malayan coast. It was in the early hours of the morning of the 8th of December. And there was general commotion that woke me up. Oh, the Japs are here, the Japs are here. Out of bed, get going. So I rushed across to the aircraft and got in my aircraft. And I think I became sortie number 6 to take off from the airstrip, which is only about 3 miles, I guess, from Kota Township itself. So we're over there in a matter of a few minutes, and there was this large ship disgorging troops on Cotabaru Beach. The beach had been defended by Indian troops earlier, and when we flew over, we dropped the bombs when we had a first run, had a near miss. I hung out the side window and used the machine gun to dispose of as many Japanese as I possibly could. We went back, reloaded, and took off. At this time, we over the 8,000-ton ship, we succeeded in dropping a decent bomb, 450 pounds, I think, it's from memory, bomb. And there was a great explosion. Me still firing my machine gun at any possibility I could see. And my pilot diver announced that the plane had been badly wounded. The oil supply had been cut. We wouldn't last very long, so we headed straight back to Cotabaru. That was the end of that aircraft for the time being.
How many sorties do you remember? How many sorties you would have been on to try and interfere?
I was on the two sorties there.
And how long was the duration of a sortie?
Well, only just a matter of a few minutes. Well, from the time you took off, the time you got back, it would be about 15 minutes, I would say.
Yeah, Don Dowie suggested it was something like 10
Something
minutes.
like that.
Yeah. And when you came back, what was the condition? Had there been any damage done to the airfield?
Yes, it was to the airfield?
Yes.
Not as I was aware of.
No. So at what stage did you move south from Cotabaru, and who made that decision?
Before we did, with Ozzy as the pilot again, I flew with him into Thailand and tried to disable a bridge which we knew the Japs would be using to come down to Malaya.
Yes.
See, the Japs had made simultaneous landings on Thailand with Malaya.
Yep. So when did you go all the way down to Singapore when you pulled out?
No,
or?
the order was given late in the day, later that day, to evacuate to H1 was there, about halfway down the central coast, the east coast. I can't think of the name. So we slept in those, put the night in there, and then proceeded to back to Zimbabwe the next day.
Yeah. And who repaired? You said that you'd had some damage to your oil pressure system. That Aussie.
The oil system.
Yeah.
Well,
so when was that repaired?
The plane was US was put in for repairs.
Yes.
I don't think I saw it again actually.
So you were in.
Left there. There were a few damaged planes because later in the day the Japs were coming over on their base in Thailand with their fighter planes.
Yes.
And they did a lot of damage to our planes which are still on the ground.
Yes. Yeah.
And,
so yeah, you said you were back at Samboang in Singapore. How long were you there before you moved again?
Well, from Samboang, now we're still in December, of course.
Yes.
We did a lot of flights over the east coast and sometimes up the west coast, looking for the enemy and so forth. I was part of an operation which about 6 planes went up and we were attacked by the Japanese fighters on the way, or nearly there, But fortunately, I don't think any of our planes were badly damaged, and I can't recall what else happened.
Was a Lockheed Hudson a good aircraft?
It was a sound aircraft.
Mm.
A sound aircraft. Yes, it was underpowered, I'd say. Underpowered for the weight of it, you know.
Yes.
There was another day we went up the coast and attacked a radio ship off just before you get to Thailand on the northeast coast of Malaya. I made several others.
So you pulled out of Sembawang and went across to Sumatra, is it?
Well,
how many of the squadron might have gone over there?
Well, all the squadron went across there, but only aircrew went by plane, and I was one of those, of course. The others went by ship. So we went to this landing strip in the middle of the bush, and not too far from Palembang, but it was known as P2. It was very primitive, and we were living in tents there. I do remember one day when a beer truck arrived, and everyone ran to this beer truck to get hot beer. Funny how you can remember little silly things like that.
What incident caused you to leave P2 or P1? Leave Palembang area?
Oh, I think I don't know, I was not privy to any decision making like that. And I think the fall of Singapore looked to be imminent. And, I wanted to get to a firmer base in Java.
Mm-hmm. But didn't your aircraft crash?
Yes, well, we did our operations from P2, and eventually there was two Japanese fleets bearing down on Sumatra, and we went out to try and do as much damage as we could. Three Hudsons at a time. We attacked the part of the Japanese fleet. I don't think we did a great deal of damage, but my pilot said, I remember this very well, where are the other two? I think I'll go around and have a look for them. So we circled around the fleet, and before we knew what had happened, the 3 Zeros ever appeared out of the sky from the blue and started firing at us. So we got down as low as possible. And this was off Baker Island before you get to Sumatra. And the plane had been hit a few times. And Ozzy had said, I don't know whether we can't, certainly won't be able to make it to P2, which was where we were stationed. We'll have to try and make it to P1. I got on the wireless and tried to signal a distress to P2, but couldn't get anyone. As I found out later, that they destroyed all the wireless equipment that morning at P2. So we follow this river. There's a river that runs north from Palembang up in Sumatra. We followed that down and eventually came within sight of P1, which was British troops were there. I didn't see any even British troops. So Ozzy made a fairly good landing. A bit bumpy, but we got out of it, thankfully. We blessed ourselves. We're lucky to get out of that one. Then there was voices came from a slit trench nearby. Put your so-and-so heads down. The place has been surrounded. So we looked around and the aerodrome was surrounded by rubber trees. About 150 metres away you could still see the parachutes, Japanese parachutes, hanging on the rubber trees. Anyway, we decided to make a run for it, irrespective. So amid water fire and machine gun fire, we ran skilled towards what we thought was safety. And to this day, I just don't understand why one of us, or four of us, well, one of us was not at least hit. Well, nothing happened. So we got over among the rubber trees and then found ourselves about 5-10 metres from the group of Japanese talking among themselves. Oh, put your heads down. We're in this long elephant grass, as we used to call it, so you can hide pretty well in that. So Ozzy said that we'll wait till nightfall and then we'll make a move to go into Bank City. Towards dusk, we saw some British Army fellows moving up, so we joined them. Instead of going directly by the direct road, we thought that would be too dangerous. We went through the swamps and arrived at Bank City in the early hours of the morning. I'd lost my shoes in the bog, and I had plenty of scratches, bruises and whatever, and bites from leeches, etc., etc. But anyway, it was like a Bill Keenan, a RAAF officer there, and he lent me a pair of his, what I call his Sunday walking shoes. He's about a size 10 walking shoe, and I take a 6.5, but anyway, better than nothing. So I went away with, next morning with Jack Walsh, another crew member, Ozzy Diamond, and can't think of the other one straight away. They went their own separate ways. But on the outskirts of Palembang, we found a small kissy bus, as we call it, a small bus, and got a lift out towards P2. There we joined the main road going to Oosterhaven, the Dutch name for the port down in the southeast corner of Sumatra. And from there, we were taken across to Java, to Jakarta. Well, where are the squadron? We had no idea where they were. There was only just Jack Walsh and I. Anyway, some inquiries, after some inquiries, we found that they were in central Java, and we found our way out to can't think of the name of the place. And that's where we spent some time. We operated from there for until let me see, for at least a month, going up and see where the Japanese were and what have you. And then we got the order to go to main city in the mountains in Java. Bandok, go to Bandok. I said we were going to go down to South Java by truck. We had a truck, yes, went by truck to this place down the south of Java. All the civil on the beach. And Curly Davis told us that this was a secret rendezvous, and he arranged with the RAAF to send some Catalanians over to pick us up. So we waited a couple of days, nothing happened. Then a few of us said, "Oh, maybe we're at the wrong beach." So we went up and we lived in a tea plantation for a few days, and then took off in an easterly direction further around, try another beach, but nothing happened. So eventually we were living in this tea plantation where the word came from the Japanese that, "Come on in, or we'll come in, we'll be out to take you." And there we got in the truck and gave ourselves up. I wish I could think of the name of the couple of small places in my little book, but I can't think of it right off. I should have refreshed my memory for this interview.
No, that's fine. You did end up in bicycle camp at some stage, though,
well,
did you?
From there, we had about a month, a couple of places before hitting bicycle camp, and it was a big camp, and we were there. Well, I was there until October. The three group, most of the Air Force fellows in it, they went about a month earlier. So we went on this, think of it.
Was this the ship? Was this a ship? Are you thinking of a ship?
Yeah.
Wasn't the Daiichi Maru, was it?
Daiichi
Maru.
It was a real rush bike.
Yeah.
So we crowded onto this ship and were taken to Singapore. We're taken out to Changi area, where we settled into a few of us settled into some of the outbuildings there. It's part of Accelerator full of British Army area, big area. There was several old cottages used to be used by the officers of the British Army. We settled in one of these. I remember being invited to Christmas dinner with Colonel Jesus. It wasn't a magnificent fare, but it was better than what we were having. We were very close to the big concrete building, what they were generally referred to as Changi. There's a big army base, 2- 3-story concrete building.
So, did you, in the group that was there, did you have any HMAS Perth survivors with you at that stage?
Yes, they came to us in the bicycle camp.
Did they?
They were in a wretched state because they'd been in the water so many hours. And they were taken to, I understand, a civilian jail for a while. So they weren't going very well at all. Buzzer B, I remember.
Oh, you do?
Buzzer B, I remember.
Yeah.
Rawson, he was the nurse. fine fellow. I liked him. He looked after me when I was low at 80 kilo. 80,
when you get up to Burma, yeah.
when I got to bed.
What about the doctor off the Perth, Stenning? Did you ever hear of him? No.
There was an old bloke I saw, Epstein.
Oh, Commander Epstein. Yeah, yeah. Now, now Commander Epstein was off the Houston, but Lumpkin was from the artillery unit that was on Java, wasn't he?
I think so,
yeah. Okay.
You know, this all happened in
63 years ago.
That's
65 years ago.
That was 60 years ago.
65 years ago. Oh.
It was pretty hard to sort of say, hey, remember that, maybe if you go away and think about it, such things come back to you. But,
I'll just stop for a second. Now, Ray, you can now run through your movement from Singapore up to McMillan, or Mulmine, or whatever the proper pronunciation is. McMillan, thank you.
Well, as I said earlier, we went by train to Georgetown and Penang and transferred to a ship. And a couple of days out from Wilmington, American bombers came over and sank a ship which contained a lot of Japanese troops. Had a near miss on our ship and scared the life out of me because I'm down in the hold and there's great red hot pieces of metal flying overhead from the near miss, you know. And at least one of our fellows who was off the Perth, and a chap named McCready was killed there. But the Japs on the ship, mounting the small guns they had, they were just blown to pieces. So we had the awful task of cleaning the decks up with all the pieces of flesh. Well, going down the Wilmeen River, I was struck by the number of corpses were floating by out to sea, all native population, they're all coloured people. It wasn't far up the river you come to the city itself. We got out there and there was the population of Millville. We were lined up at either side of the road, watching us, not saying anything, but just staring at us. So we went a short distance, got into some trucks. It took us out to 18 Kilo Camp. And at that time it was the dry season. The soil was like taco powder, you tread on it and splash up with fine dust everywhere. We went into these rough thatch timber huts or whatever, and life began as it us, I suppose. I struggled to survive on the railway line.
If you'll tell us a little bit about 18 Kilo Camp. Who did the cooking? What were the sort of toilet facilities like? How did you bathe? And what sort of work did you do?
How did we bathe? That's a good question. Well, it was our own cooks at the army. See, we were a mixed group. A number of Air Force and the people off the Perth, but there were largely second pilots, second, third engineers, second field regiment. They were back to the Middle East. See, a lot of troops were captured in Burma. They were on their way home and they were ordered to go into
captured in Java.
in Java, and that's where they were taken prisoner. That's where like the second pioneers, we worked daily with them. Now I can't remember who did the cooking other than the army fellows.
And what was the food?
What's the food? Well, this is where the real rationing started right from the outset. It was a level cup of rice and maybe a dog or something else, greedy or something.
What was the extra piece that?
I don't know, well, a bit of greenery, I know I couldn't name it. Or sometimes it would just be, or more often than that, was just be plain rice. Occasionally there was a bit of, they used to make soups, because I noticed there that they had a few skinny cattle in a bit of a yard there, they had 8 kilo. And one of our butchers had to go down and bleed the beast with cutting it up. So we'd have this watery sort of stew, a little bit of vegetables, but I don't know what it came from.
What was your clothing like now? What
Well, you see, you realise that when I came back to the camp at P2, that all vanished, including my clothing. So I went into, became a prisoner of war just when I stood up into the airplane the day before. And the shoes that were given to me by Flight Lieutenant Bill Keenan, they disintegrated, and I don't know, I can't remember just how I got onto these British Indian Army boots, hobnail sort of things they were, but they were wonderful. They stood by me for a couple of years or so. Anyway, I acquired them somewhere in Java, but I only had the clothes that I stood up.
So you still had a shirt?
You couldn't get any supplies. There was no such thing. That all vanished.
Did you have a hat? Did you have a hat?
No, I had the. No, I didn't. A lot of them did. A lot of fellas did because they weren't up there. See, I'd lost everything. People.
Well, the guys from the Perth must have been worse off.
Yeah. Well, I had this. Cap, Air Force cap.
Yeah.
It was a rule, if you're going out flying, you left your money in any possessions in the care of someone. If you didn't come back, well, they'd have a great time.
Yes.
And, I didn't come back, see, I didn't arrive back till the next day. They thought I was a goner. I was finished. But anyway, I returned, but that's how I got around in this shirt, shorts, socks, underpants, socks, and pair of hobnail boots.
Were there any creeks or rivers near this camp?
No, I remember distinctly. No such thing at all.
No. Well, where'd they get their water from? Were there wells or?
It's a good question because I think water was brought into the camp, into the kitchen. I remember having to fill our water bottles at the kitchen.
Yes.
And told, just take it easy drinking it. It's got to last all day. But as for bathing, there was no such thing as bathing in any creek then. It was still the dry season.
Now, how
and I do remember that there was a water hole on the way back from the camp. We had elephants working with us. So the Japs would say to right, wait, and they'd let the elephants get into this small pond, you know, where elephants are like, they get it, and they churn it up properly. Well, it's just too filthy to get in there. That's the only water I saw then.
I don't suppose the elephants...
Later on in the wet season you saw too much water.
Yes, I suppose the elephants weren't toilet trained either.
No, they looked down. No. So from there we started on embankments and cuttings along the railway line. And that consisted of someone using a pick, another one, shovel, that shovel into grass matting which was held together, which was tied together between two poles, and one prisoner would get on one end, one on the other, and you take that soil away to where proper place to dispose it, either up onto the building embankment or taking it away from the cutting. That's how I got to know a lot of these pioneers up and down from these soil places. Awesome.
What did you do mainly? Did you do any of the what they call hammer and tap, or were you a bearer of soil, or what? We did worked on a bit of a slack period. We were taken to an area where there were plenty of big rocks around. And we had to, first of all, heard of the terms spalling. Spalling is to break the big rocks into smaller parts. And napping, you break it into size to fit underneath the sleevers. But that was later on. Mainly worked on cuttings and embankments, and then a bit of bridge building, getting out in the middle of the river, hanging onto ropes, dropping a pylon down onto a wooden bridge. Or working at night, carry fish for the Japs. You want something, you yell out to it. It's very scary because it might be a 20 to 30 foot drop down into the river. But then by June the wet season came, and misery came as well, because we would be soaked to the skin all day. Rations were just the same, still being starved. Were there any natives? Were there any coolie workers in your area?
Not actually alongside of us.
No. Were there any in the area? Now, 5 kilometres away?
They lost heavily in that. Later on, when the cholera went through 100 kids, I was in a party that used to go out and pull these natives out from underneath the oxen cart, so when they make a funeral fire of them.
Now, the natives you're talking about, were they sort of villagers that lived in the area, or were they the coolie workforce that the Japs were making work on the line?
I think that would be more local people. Whatever they did, I wouldn't have any idea.
Were there many villagers in the area? Were you ever...
None at all.
Yeah.
You see, the line had been surveyed by the British years ago. So all that's left is a lot of bamboo stumps, so called. A wide clearing right through. But there was a jungle either side. And there were elephants, and maybe there were other wild animals there too.
Yes. Were there any significant rivers that you had to build bridges over? Were there any really big rivers that you built bridges across?
The wet season, you see it rain.
Yes.
It would rain incessantly there.
Yeah.
You would have days. It wouldn't stop raining. You'd be out there trying to shift mud from one place to another, then pick it up again, put it back again. That's what you did significant rivers. Would be fast, more or less fast mountain streams.
Yes.
Like,
there was one river called the Apollon River, or Apollon. Does that ring a bell?
Oh, I don't know.
No. Okay, there was one question I wanted to ask you. You mentioned a few moments ago about you were working on pile driving.
Oh, yeah.
How that gantry that the ropes went through, was that already? Did that have to be built on site, or was it brought up to the river and then erected there?
I think it was built on site. Actually.
Was it? And did the Japs actually stand on the top of them and?
I thought the mine was.
You actually did pile driving?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It'd get out, it'd be water up to here, so.
You know the weight that came down and hit the pile.
Yeah.
Did it travel up and down a rod so that it came squarely onto the top of the pile, or how did it hit it?
You're asking me something.
I know. I know. It's just it's something in my mind.
I can't recall.
No. Fair
All
enough.
I know is, or remember is, it was pulled up in the air.
Yes.
And the Jap would issue an order of Japanese to let go. And everyone let go of the ropes and just dropped down.
Yes.
There must have been some guide there, otherwise he wouldn't be doing his job, would it?
No.
He'd be missing his target.
No.
I can't tell you that.
Yeah. I'll just stop this for a sec. Where you've probably gone down to the 80 kilo camp.
80 was where I 100 is, I suppose, where I spent a larger portion of my term. 100 kilo camp. And that's where it is, the rain was pouring down. That's when I was really miserable, because I'd had malaria, one of the first to get malaria, back at the 80 kilo camp, I think it was. And I was very much weakened by this malaria.
Did they have any quinine?
They had a little
What was it? Good quinine? Or?
See, they later came on. Not that, our people had what they call Atterbury, I think.
Yes, Atterbury.
But I'm pretty vague about it. Quite honest.
Now, at 100 kilo camp, that's where you lost your doctor, was it?
Well, that's where we lost Dr. Lumpkin. That's when the cholera came through and scared everyone. The Japs rushing around, spreading live all around the place.
Yeah.
We were all a bit worried, of course.
Yes.
Cholera was absolutely ghastly.
Yes.
But I think more so the death rate has increased a lot.
Did you have
I had a friend that airport friend. I won't name him, but close friend of mine. He had dysentery pretty badly. And he was in a very weakened state. He knew he was dying, and there's nothing he could do about it. So at the end of the day, I used to go around and try and cheer him up when I came back from work and all that. And he used to cry or hold his hand. He wanted to go home, go back to Adelaide. It was very distressing, It's
be horrible.
Day after day to go and see someone in such a wretched state.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, dear, I did.
Yeah.
But Yeah, but as I said, I had malaria and beriberi and another curse sort of thing. This thing's scabby, you know, you get things all over your hands, sore all over your hands.
At 100 kilo camp, were you able to bathe then at all?
Well, I think most of the time we crossed 100 kilo, it rained pretty well.
Yes.
And we'd find some little creek or wash ourselves before we got back into the camp.
Yeah. Yeah. What in this period is this getting around the worst period that you experienced?
It is.
Yeah. So what was the worst thing that happened to you? Would you tell us?
To me.
Mm. Or you saw.
Well, I think weakened by malaria and this and beriberi and light rations. Well, light rations, you know, a couple of rice is not a great deal to sustain one for a day. A handful or something or other, a couple of something. And I suppose the fact that there were so many dying, you know, used to come back to camp, we might walk out, say, half a mile, 3/4 of a mile or so, a mile out, where we were working on the line. So as soon as you got within, say, 1/4 of a mile, you could smell death.
Yes.
Because they had this ulcers, ulcers. So they had no cure for ulcers, tropical ulcers.
Mm.
That's where my messenger had my big British Indian Army boots.
Yes.
Beware of the sharp spikes of bamboo.
Yes.
Thread your way through the little bamboo cut we had there. But they had no way of relieving people with these tropical.
No.
I got a friend this, well, I think he's still alive. I reckon he died since just before Christmas. He's in a nursing home at the moment. So I think half his leg was covered by an ulcer.
Yes.
But you could see right through between the bone and the bottom part of the flesh.
Like the Achilles tendon there.
Look through.
And he
survived.
And he never lost his. He never had to have his leg amputated, or
no.
Oh.
No. But a lot of them did.
Yeah.
And of course, we're getting on another story here. Dr.
Coates.
Coates. He used to travel around the line a little bit. He wasn't in there, he used to come up. And they'd had a hand sore at the camp. Heavy smoking, so I'm told, I was never a witness of it, I'm told that he used to be chopping away at a Burmese root and be sorting a man's leg off.
Yeah.
Of course, the lions were the biggest percentages died.
Yes, well.
But I had a fellow go, his name was Gilbert. He had a leg removed, he survived. After the war, he used to call on. We had a little tobacconist store down where the Hotel Sydney, near that area there. Remember where the Hotel Sydney used to be down towards the railway?
Yeah. Yeah.
In Pitt Street, the Pitt Street part of that.
Yeah.
That's where he used to hang out there. Yeah.
Now tell me, did you ever come across any Japs that were reasonable? Or Koreans, you know?
I must admit that it pains me to do so, but to be factual, I struck one at the very end of my life as a prisoner.
Oh, so that's in Japan, is it?
In Japan.
Oh, well, we'll come to that then. Shall we get that into sequence when we get to Japan?
There was a young Japanese.
Yes.
I'll tell you about it.
Yeah, no, we must remember that. So, do you remember, could you tell that the line was about to finish, and did the pressure come off at a particular point? Like, the line was joined on the 17th of October. When the line had gone past 100 kilo camp, did it get any easier for you?
Well, you must remember, we were not privy to knowing too much about what was going on in the full action of the line. But we knew that the Japs wanted it finished by a certain date so they could move their troops through to Burma. And India, he said, they actually fought in India. And we did actually see them moving later on, moving artillery to a track near before the railway line was finished.
Ah.
A track nearby.
This is small mountain artillery, is it? With men pulling it, was it?
I'll tell you about this. It's worth repeating.
Mm.
It was a 100 kilo camp, and this troop of Japanese came by. There were about 5 or 6 yoked up harness, and all covered, all wet through with perspiration, and they'd be hauling some mountain gun or other. And walking beside them with nice, shiny leggings, whatever, with a sword and everything, or some sergeant or officer. So one day, I was just here to cross with neighbours. One Japanese soldier fell down in the traces, down into the mud. So the Jap officer yelled at him in Japanese a few times. He didn't respond, so the Japanese officer drew his sword, and he belted him 4, 5, 6 times with the back of the sword. Looked like still he was after him, right after him. So there was another command, the Japanese, and I could see they unyoked this fellow. The sergeant of the officer said, "Bush, the way they went, they left him there in the mud."
Uh-huh.
How can you believe that could happen to Australian water? So, some quarter of an hour, 20 minutes, whatever it was later, this fellow started to come round and shook his head. You should way toddle away from it. That's an example of Japanese treatment of one to another.
Now, do you remember when the line was finished and you were moved into Thailand? Do you remember the train journey down there?
Towards the end, we had moved up to 105 kilo camp.
Yes. Lots of Aussies there.
Lots of Aussies there. So we had Christmas 1943 there. And we're doing all odd jobs around the place. We're going out to the jungle and cutting up logs at a certain length and hauling them to some point near the freshly built railway line. Or we'd be up belting blue metal under the sleepers, itchy knees hard see. Yeah, in other words, bedding down the sleepers.
Yes.
So we knew that death, of course, that the railway line was, and the trains had started to run up there, and we'd be called out at night.
Yeah.
Because of the wet weather, the trains couldn't get any grip on the line. You get 40 or 50 fellows behind an engine to try and push it, you know. At any time of the night. Quite interesting. We've got to go out here again. Sorry about that.
Now, Ray, we just had a little lunch break for lunch, and we were about to cover your movement from the Burma end of the line down into Thailand. Do you remember the train journey down?
Of course, yes.
Do you remember how many days it took?
Beg your pardon?
Do you remember how many days it took to get down to Tamarkan?
Oh, it didn't take all that long. I suppose a day and a bit, maybe a day. It didn't seem to take long. Because we were at 105 kilo. We were not all that far from the Thai border.
The border. Mm.
The amazing thing that I found on the way down, we passed over a bridge called
The Wampai.
the pack of cards.
Yes.
It appears to be a three-tiered bridge structure built on the side of a ravine, you know, and it went round part of this hill, whatever it was. So we arrived at a place called Tamarkan, on the river, over the river Kwai, bridge over the river Kwai, yes. And that was a fattening up process, I suppose you might say. There's plenty of vegetables there in the camp, which was just across the other side into Thailand, across the river. And over from time to time we were allowed to go down with the Japanese to bathe and swim in the river there.
Yes.
And then we were there a few weeks, 3-4 weeks I suppose. The word got around. Brigadier Varley was taking a party to Japan. Brigadier Varley also had his son with him, Lieutenant Varley. So he took off one day. We walked to the railway station at Tamarkan and trained there, and went to Bangkok. Spent a few nights there in a transit camp, which was full of bugs and whatever.
Yes.
I know one night we all moved out in the open, and next thing Jeff came around, and Kura, and hired us all back into the hut with all the bugs. We were there about several days, and then off we went another train across Thailand and into Cambodia, across into the capital of Cambodia, Phnom Penh. And I was struck by the amazing length of the railway station there, which reminded me of Alice Springs Station. Alice Springs, what am I saying? Not Alice Springs. Not Alice Springs. Aubrey Station, not Aubrey Station.
Aubrey Wodonga, was it?
Before you go to, there used to be a long platform at Aubrey before going into Victoria. Yes. Like Alice Springs, where I moved right over to central Australia. What I'm saying. So there we were in a nice little camp, just in the outskirts of the city. And I was reminded of French cities. This Phnom Penh is very much laid out in the French lines. So eventually we put on a small river-going ferry and down the mighty big Mekong River, and started from the banks of the Mekong on the Phnom Penh side. The banks on the other side were just well into the distance, very wide there. So several days before we got to Saigon, and went to a camp there, on the outskirts of camp, on the river, Saigon, and food was rather plentiful there, plenty of rice, whatever, plenty of vegetables, so forth. The commander of the camp was Japanese, who claimed he had been educated at Sydney University. They certainly spoke good English. Now for work we used to be set out and clear out, shift things out of the go-downs, the warehouse and so forth. And from time to time we'd go take that magnificent driveway down Rue McMillan, which ran for some miles through the city. It's a wide thoroughfare with trees on either side, and headed for the airport. And out there we used to dig slit trenches adjacent to the aeroplanes park there. I had the opportunity of studying some of the Japanese blood, the Zeros, and I thought, yes, they were certainly well made, pretty good. So things went rather smoothly. So one day we wanted to dig some trenches there. It didn't please the Japanese fellow with us. Kura started swearing in Japanese. Eventually he called me out. We said that we were working too slow, tell them to hurry up. So I passed on my remarks to the troops, and they just laughed it off, you know, what do you think it is? Mm-hmm. And then it didn't satisfy the Japanese, so he got a big stick and he belted me mercilessly for several minutes, you know, but not having his instructions carried out. Speedo. Mm-hmm. He kept saying, that was a favourite word of his, speedo. Anyway, that was that. Got back to camp. And then
suppose we have the move to Japan, do we?
We wondered when we were going to get to Japan and how. And eventually we went out and a few miles and caught a ship. There's something wrong here somewhere.
So Ray, we'll just go back to how you moved from Saigon quickly through to Japan.
So I was completely out of order there.
Yes. You went back by train.
It took several days in these steel vans with, I think there were about 18 men in each, and didn't even stop for toilets, so we used to take it turns to move near the doorways, because you'd urinate from the doorways. And it took several days, and got back to Phnom Penh. Got back to Phnom Penh, and then all the way we treated our steps through Bangkok and eventually to Singapore itself.
Yes.
And here we were taken to the River Valley camp, a big transit prisoner of war camp in Singapore City itself. And from there we worked around Singapore Harbour, going off to Japan. Before that we'd worked out on what we called Jeep Island. We were taken to a little island just off the southern coast of Singapore, and we used to go by barge across a few kilometres, so go by barge to Singapore Island, and we were digging a new engraving Didoc in the southern part of Singapore Island. This was done at night time. River Valley Camp, and we saw the Ryukyu Maru in Keppel Harbour. We knew that would be the ship that would take us to Japan. So we were only there the next day or so, and all packed up ready to go. And the Japanese came round and said, "Oh, the last 150 Australians, they stay." Well, I was one of the 150. They were taking some Englishmen from over the other side of the camp. In 1944, I got a bit confused about all that. But Boxing Day in 1944, we were in a ship called the Alma Maru in Keppel Harbour. This was going to take us to Japan. Well, we withstood a torpedo attack off the coast of Vietnam. I happened to be up on the top deck of the Philadelphia ship with some boys off the Perth, and I said, "Oh, Mac, look at that, look at that." And there's a torpedo going through the water at our stern, and about 200 or 300 metres away, it crashed against the shore of Vietnam. We arrived in Japan on the 15th of January 1945. Just before arriving there, it started to snow, it was cold, it was terrible. And I thought, what's going to happen to us here? We'll all freeze to death. But lo and behold, the Japanese handed out new British Army greatcoats, which they had taken from the coal stores in Singapore. From there, we eventually landed at Moji, on the island of Kyushu, the northern part of Kyushu, one of the islands of Japan, and that went by train to a place called Omata. I don't know what size it would be, it may be 100,000 people or so, best size number would be. And we didn't know what we were in for, but as soon as we arrived there, we realised that it was a coal mine. We saw all these Americans. They'd been down in the mines and their faces were all blackened and whatever. So the quarters were okay there. In fact, the bedding was quite good. Nice warm bed at night, and I heard now segregated into groups of 10 or 12 in each room, and the meals were just the same, though only the soups were not as frequent. The watery soups we had the same short amount of rice, but just a handful of seaweed or something to go with it. And we used to take a Vito box or a lunch box with us, and that was a cup of rice plus a few slices of pickled radish or pickled turnip or something or other. And down we went to the coal mine, which was some thousands of feet down under the bay, the ocean there. The camp was situated up against the water. I'd never been anywhere near a coal mine before. But we went down on a train, cable train, down. Someone said it was 4,000 people. It seemed to me to be a long way to go down. But anyway, and there you'd be issued with we were issued with mining lamps. And had to return them at the end of each day, yell out our number, our numbers when returning them. So my job was part of the looking after or checking on any walls that might, or the ceilings that may be falling in, and store them up with lengths of timber 6-7 feet long. And I remember that one of the difficult tasks was to crawl down some 400 or 500 metres to a depot and drag back 4 or 5 of these poles. And a very difficult job indeed, just to crawl through a long length of low tunnel. Occasionally we would be called on to shovel some coal, and there wasn't any work, and propping up work to be done, propping up ceiling. So I'd get near the coal front, shoveling coal. And this is where I met towards the end, the last couple of weeks or so, I met the only Japanese that had any compassion, appeared to have any feeling towards a prisoner of war. Was shoveling the coal. The coal was all right for a big man, a fit man, big shovels, but for me, a bit 5 stone, 5 a bit stone, whatever I was, it was a task indeed just to lift the shovel without filling it with coal. Anyway, we had a certain quota to do, a certain amount of coal to shift each person, and he used to, towards the end of the shift, he used to take the shovel from me and do my duty for me.
Mm.
So all the Japanese and Koreans that I had encountered over the 3.5 years, he was the only one that showed any feeling towards his enemy, you know.
Yes.
And I certainly appreciate it, because I was in a weakened state. I'd had bronchitis of all things. I thought I was going to cash it in, or I had friends coming to the hut with me, and just to see how I was going, and told me to stay with it, and hang on there.
Mm.
Eventually I overcame the bronchitis and the weakness, and I was able to go back to work. They put me on, first of all, cleaning up all the papers, whatever around my head, and then going down. There came a day when we were asked to go up early in the afternoon. I was working day shift. Come up early in the afternoon, and when we got up topside, there was several gangs of prisoners that had been in the mine before us. They were waiting for us to join them. We were going back to camp. That was our first inkling that the war must have been over. So we were very agitated and very, I was very happy that night, waiting for the further information to come our way, but nothing was said to us for a few days. But we did notice the absence of no American planes coming over and bombing the camp. They used to bomb the camp every night. And the bombs took all the wooden fences surrounding the camp, so they killed and landed on a couple of huts and killed several prisoners of war. But after about 10 days, there was a visitor came to camp. He was a Swiss Red Cross man, and he said that the war was over. The Japs never fronted us and said that was it. The war was over, or ended, or ended. It was up to someone Switzerland to tell us that this was the end.
Now, can I just ask you about some of the personalities, the Australians? Well, first of all, what were the Americans like in that camp?
Well, I got on quite well with them. They were in separate working parties. We'd only strike around the mess hut and things like that.
What about this Commander Little that was there?
He was a most unpleasant individual. He seemed to be out to protect the interests of the Japanese at all times. The Scotia Little he was called.
What about...
But they insisted when you got your rations, they'd actually use a knife to run over the top of the cup to make sure you didn't get a little bit over the right amount.
Yeah. And what about Captain Ian Duncan, Dr. Ian Duncan? Did you have much to do with him?
I saw Dr. Duncan several times. He was a good, friendly man, and he treated everyone with a great deal of respect, as I could see it, respect and understanding. I thought highly of him.
Yes. And the incident involving David Runge?
David Runge, he wasn't in my working group at the time. But I believe he was alleged to have said to a group, when we're out on the working party, well, just take it easy, you know. You won't get home unless, you know, exhausting yourselves every time.
Yes.
And unfortunately, his words were understood by a Japanese nearby, and he was reported to the Jap authorities. And the next thing we knew is he'd been taken to the little, what they call the U-cell, little cell. About 6 feet by 6 feet, I suppose, if that big, I guess. And I was told that I used to, this was the middle of winter, and it was very cold in Japan, used to go in, the Japs would go in and throw buckets of cold water over him. Eventually, his legs were amputated, and he survived that. They were being carried around. The only times I saw him after that, we were seeing him going to the mess hut, being carried to the mess hut.
What about Tommy?
He has died. He came from up the north coast somewhere. He died some years ago.
Yes. And what about Tommy Wren? Did you know him when he was in that camp?
No, not in Japan.
No.
Because I struck him in one of the earlier camps in Java.
Yes.
Java would have been.
Yes, it would have been. Because he's captured on Timor.
He used to give boxing exhibitions. This was just before the Japs got themselves organised for the work parties. But many years later, I was in the Martin Place, not Anzac Day, Fall of Singapore Day, 15th of February. And I saw Tom there, and I thought, oh, I'll have a word with him. But much to my surprise, he didn't want to chat with me at all.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I thought, oh, well, you're lost me, not mine.
Yes. Now, on your way, when you were repatriated, how did you get home from Japan?
Well, when the day came, and I think it's the papers, I think it's the 16th of September, I think it was, that I and several hundred others were put on a train at Omata and taken to Nagasaki, and came through and saw the devastation the atom bomb had caused to Nagasaki, and we were taken to the wharf there at Nagasaki. And I was surprised to see that down below on the plains area where the city had been built, everything was just wrecked, twisted steel and buildings destroyed. But where the wharf was, the trees and everything were still standing. There was nothing, no damage done around the wharf area, up and right and whatever else. From there, there were American girls issued us with donuts. They just melted in our mouths, Lovely. They were put on the scales, weighed, and that's what I recorded as a 5-stone weight. And then had to discard all our clothing, and there must have been 5 or 6 different insecticide powders were sprayed on us. When that was done, we'd be issued with American clothing, so forth, and asked to participate in plenty of ice cream and chocolate, everything. Americans had that chocolates or something with it. So I'd eat something, and I'd go rush to the side of the ship or somewhere and dispose of it. Just couldn't keep anything down. Well, then we came down past Big Island, which they used to welcome Japan. Okinawa. And was again taken by the huge strength of the American Navy and Air Force with planes and ships all around the place. And we disembarked eventually at Manila, and that had been bombed too, and we were taken to a camp outside of Manila, and we waited there a week or so. A couple of Air Force fellows I knew back home at Lebanon, came and greeted us, and issued us with pay books, etc., etc. And from then on, it was a Australian Catalina flying boat to Darwin, and then another plane from Darwin down to Sydney.
Now I understand that you continued to serve in the Air Force till 1946?
I was discharged. I didn't give me some date or something. The discharge date is about the 7th of January or something like that, 47.
47, thank you.
Early 47.
Yeah. Now, tell me a little bit about where did you meet your wife and when did you marry?
She was up there for all to see. Yeah, well, she was in the west at Redfield Park over here. It's just across the other side of the highway. It's a place called West Linfield.
Yes.
It's a big block of land there. Like sort of a holding camp or a transit camp there. And of course I had nothing to do. They sent me on leave.
Yes.
They sent me on leave. I had a train pass that took me here, there, and anywhere. I used to oscillate between Melbourne, Sydney and Wewell. Eventually I knew that it would have to come to an end. We We had a couple of weeks, we had about 10 days out of Melbourne, I forget, up in the hills there. It was a sort of a recovery sort of business. Warburton, at Warburton it was. I knew it had come to me, Warburton. I should have said it. At Warburton, 46.
With Helen?
And we were married on the 12th of December 1946.
Yes.
Of course, there's more problems when you come there. Where are you going to live?
Yes.
So we had a honeymoon down at Ballarat, Melbourne, and back to Sydney. Stayed at a hotel in the city for a while. Then we were there a couple of years, and a relation of cousin of Helen's had a block of flats at Clovelly, and we went out there until I acquired this land here in 1953. I had no money, but it was built in 1955, early 56. On the 23rd of August 1956, I moved in with the family.
Yes.
And I might add that my married life was one of bliss, happiness and thankfulness that I had met such a lovely, charming girl as Helen Maguire was. And I shall never forget her and the way she helped me back to recovery. No mean task whatsoever. Thank you very much.